Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you today. I'm here with Nawar Chalker and Ryan Hookstein. They are the authors of Stukent's Sales Management Courseware. We're going to chat with them and just learn a little bit more about the courseware and why you should be using it in your sales management course. I want to start out and I want to have each of you just introduce yourself briefly. Brian, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Brian Hookstein. I'm an associate professor of marketing at the University of Alabama. I've been at Alabama for starting my 9th year this fall, so a little bit of time. Prior to that, I worked in sales. Worked in the television advertising industry in Wisconsin, selling cable advertising for Time Warner. Worked in a family retail food service business for years before that. Kind of one little fact about myself, I was a non-traditional student, so I went back to school and got a bachelor's degree in my 30s and an MBA, and then I went on and did a PhD. So I kind of got to this point later in life, but I'm really enjoying the career.
Yes, I'm an associate professor of marketing at Louisiana State University, or LSU. I've been there for about 4 years, do sales research. I'm also involved in our Professional Sales Institute. Before that, I was at another university, but like Brian, I worked in industry as well before, mainly in technical sales. So I'm always interested in connecting, right, the theory and the practice. So that's something it excites me about the book and what we're doing.
So in my sales role, I was a sales individual contributor, so a salesperson out working with customers. I wasn't a sales manager, but I worked a lot with our sales managers, and at the same time I was working on an MBA, so I really paid attention to what they were doing and kind of what their role was all about and how that interacted with my job. So I kind of have that's what I bring to this book, I think, is how does the manager's job directly impact the salesperson? How did their actions, what are the pressures on them as sales managers, and how does that relate to what salespeople do in the field? So that's really the kind of the perspective we try to bring to the book, is this sales manager in the middle of higher level corporate management, and then salespeople on the front line selling to customers, both very important, and how do they blend those two perspectives together to keep everybody motivated and going in the right direction. But I learned a lot about that when I was working directly in B2B sales.
Yeah, like Brian, having the industry experience absolutely helps. You provide examples, ideas, understand what managers go through. But also both Brian and I are researchers of sales, right? So as professors, we do sales research. So we also bring unique perspective in terms of what's happening in the academic community, given the research topics we study. So combining that with the industry background and the industry examples, we're able to bring new insights on the research front, and then also examples from our past experience that bridges the two. So I think that's something unique we bring to the table.
We thought there was a pretty big gap in the market here. There are other textbooks on the market in sales management. That's been a topic for a long time, but the current way people are selling, I do a lot of research in tech industries. I see the different ways that there's a lot more remote selling and different things going on. A lot of changes, COVID and otherwise, in our world, right? We're very fast paced. We have AI now. We have all kinds of stuff going on. And the sales management books out there just don't address that kind of thing. And they're not designed to be updatable the way that Stukent's products are. So they're always behind, and in many cases they're behind by like decades of knowledge. So in my opinion, I'm not trying to cast any issues here or anything, but they're on older topics that might have been important in the past, but are still important. But there's a lot of new stuff that needs to be covered too. So we saw a real gap in this market, and that's why we're writing this and have worked on this courseware.
Yeah, I would add to that. So yeah, sales is obviously a highly dynamic profession, and because there's constant change, some of the old sales management books, which there aren't that many, aren't updated as frequently, and they don't touch on some of the more modern, contemporary issues in sales management, like Brian mentioned, COVID and some of these other things. Even the way sales management is manifesting these days is very different. So when you look at the different books that are out there, as more and more schools are implementing sales programs, right, they're going to be offering sales management courses. And part of the allure of a sales program is the fact that students are getting contemporary sales knowledge so that they're job ready. So the part of the inspiration of the book is, at least from the sales management perspective, give students a glimpse of what managers are dealing with, what are some of the contemporary issues, and so forth. So I think one thing we bring that's a little different is we've tried to make the book or the courseware as engaging as possible, interactive as possible. We have more recent examples. We've got a couple of call-out boxes, some dedicated sections that hit on things like sales enablement and responsibility and sales management. And then we also have like links to practitioner-related things to point readers to kind of more relevant and more top-of-mind topics in sales management. So I think just that engagement opportunity, the chance to interact with some of this content, I think is very, very unique compared to other sales management books that I know.
I wanted to start with the idea that we're both instructors in sales, and we understand the challenges of a classroom, right? So we include a lot of resources for instructors to use in their classroom. We also include what we call a sales wiki that can go deeper into topics that either an instructor or students want to learn more about. So they can be a big part of the class, or they can be more limited depending on what the class is teaching at the time. And kind of a really unique feature to our courseware is we start each chapter with a salesperson's point of view first. We have a section called Salesperson Point of View, because the students may have already had a sales class and they can see like what's happening in this chapter from a salesperson's vantage point. And then we also show the sales manager's point of view to say, okay, well, if I was sitting on the other side of the desk of the salesperson, what would I be seeing in the same situation? So students get a perspective that helps them to know where this fits in their current knowledge and then what new knowledge they'll then learn about in this chapter. So we really tried to focus on how instructors can use this and then how students can understand the information in everything that we're writing.
Thank you.
I think just to emphasize, so the book or the courseware is focused around the sales manager as the unit of analysis. So unlike a professional selling class where the focus is on the salesperson and what the salesperson does day in and day out, our courseware focuses on what the sales manager of the salespeople is doing day in and day out. So a lot of our table of contents revolves around those types of topics. We have a couple of unique topics that I think would be noteworthy. We have one around sales ecosystems. When you think about the sales manager's role, right, they're embedded in an ecosystem. So understanding the internal ecosystem, the external ecosystem, how the sales manager is connected from a web perspective. That's a pretty unique chapter we have. And also we have a dedicated chapter on what it means to be a sales manager. Right? So talking about some of the being stuck in the middle, right, mentality, pressures of being the middle manager or the frontline manager, so the manager of salespeople, communicating between upper level managers and then kind of the sales team. So I think that's a unique chapter we have. And of course we have a lot of the traditional content as well, motivating sales force, evaluating salespeople, sales strategy. Another chapter that I think is noteworthy as well is the use of sales technology by sales managers. A lot of the other courses will talk about how salespeople use technology, CRM systems and others, but we get into how the managers are using it as well, in addition to how they facilitate the use of technology.
I wanted to highlight this idea of a chapter on what the sales manager's role. That would seem pretty obvious for a book on sales management, right? But in surveying what other options are out there, that's really missed. And I always try to teach students, if I were to start in a new job doing this tomorrow or next week, they should know like what to do when they sit down, what kind of skills they should have, what kind of knowledge, what kind of abilities they should have. And that was absent in other titles out there. So we felt it was very strongly that we needed to get the students to understand that not all salespeople are going to be great sales managers. In fact, most of them aren't going to be, because it's a different skill set, and we need to tell them what that skill set was. So we did that. We also, in addition to the technology one, we focus a whole chapter on data and sales analytics, which is an important topic. It touches on AI and other things in the sales manager's job, and really how those things are important to them keeping everything moving in the right direction and achieving objectives and that kind of stuff. So we cover a lot, and it's really practical stuff. The good news is a lot of students want to be in management, right? So there is some interest in it, and they'd like to start there, but that's not the reality in sales of where you start in the job. So there is at least some interest, though, and many of them see it as and they can understand that is something that you aspire to be. So there is interest in this topic. In the courseware, I think the biggest thing we do is we just try to keep the level of depth of coverage right. And when I say that, I said medium, I can say medium level depth of information, but all of the more depth information is there too, because Stukent's products are virtual, right? So we have lots of links. We use a lot of real world popular type things from Forbes and from Inc. and from Salesforce and Indeed, and, all different companies that are doing research on sales. We include that. Students can go read and learn more about that. We have a lot of video type resources, expert content, things to keep the topics moving at a decent pace with the right level of depth, explaining how it fits to them in various roles that they'll be in, and using our years of education and instruction to kind of position and frame things in a way that students would find them to be relevant and salient to what they're learning about and need to do in their careers. So I think that's largely how we do it.
I would just add, just to reiterate the point about the opening of every chapter gives the student from the salesperson's perspective, but then also the salesman on the same topic, right? So when you look at, if you think about sales as like a ball, right? There's different ways to look at the ball. You've got the sales manager side, you got the salesperson side, but it's the same ball, right? So we try to present it that way and then say, okay, since the courseware is focused on the sales manager, put yourself in that sales manager's shoes, and this is what they go through, this is what they think of. So the courseware is written in a way where you can imagine being the sales manager, right? And given the examples and so forth from that lens. So I think that hopefully makes it more relatable to a student. But starting each chapter by saying, okay, here's the ball, and here's how it's looked at differently. I think that at least gives a nice frame of reference.
Two things I'll highlight is the case studies for each chapter. I really like teaching with that kind of thing. Students like to engage their brain and think critically, and the ongoing story makes it easy, and hopefully it'll be at least some anticipation of going further each chapter. I know we assume students are going to be really engaged, but those that are, and most of them are actually, well, I think we'll like that feature. The other is for the instructor. We both taught these classes for years, so including a lot of in-class activities, and it's often a question of I have to go entertain these students for the next hour and 15 minutes twice a week or 3 days a week. What are some new ideas that I haven't thought of? And we have a lot of those ideas that we include in the courseware to help the instructor that maybe is teaching it for the first time or hasn't taught it in a while, or something to think of some ways to keep their students engaged throughout the course and throughout the day of learning, in person or virtually.
We've incorporated in every chapter these thought questions to kind of kick off the topic and get everyone to start thinking at a time when we incorporate these into the slides as well, right? So for interested instructors, just to get a discussion going on the topic early on, right before getting in. And then it was mentioned earlier, but we also have videos and other types of things, just to break up the, like it's not always going to be lecture or reading content. There's different ways to consume the content. So we're very excited about how that's set up. And then of course from a slide deck perspective, those things are available as well.
I think I would tell a professor, I know lots of professors, I would tell them, it's your class, you decide how you like to educate your students. I would encourage them to talk to a Stukent representative, to see a demo of the product, to see the courseware, to see this Simternship that goes with it, to see how those fit together very well, and to look at the various ancillary materials, the lesson planning, the other assignments and things that go with it, and make a decision. I'm confident that our product is a good one. It has quality, has value that can be used in the classroom, has the kind of information that's needed, it's current and relevant, and it'll be updated year after year. So that's what I tell them. I'd say look at it, take it for a test drive, and see if it fits for you. And if it doesn't, we can remain friends, and if it does, great. Buy it and adopt it and help your students to learn.
Those that have taught sales management know that there aren't very good textbooks, so it's a challenge to find good material. Right? How can you teach this class in a fun and engaging way? Professional selling, everybody gets excited about that. So if you're open to considering other alternative ways to make the class maybe more engaging, interactive, and have a resource to help you with that, you may want to consider the courseware. Of course, as Brian mentioned, demo it out, try it out, see the unique elements. It doesn't go into as much depth as some of the sales management things, but it provides you the option to do so if you wanted to. So it's at the right level for an undergraduate audience. So I think I would just say, try it. If it works, great. Compare it to other products, that's totally fine. But if you can see yourself using it, I would urge you to try it out first. Meet with Stukent, get a demo, reach out to us is fine too, and no pressure in the end, either ways.
Great. Well, thank you both of you for joining us today, and thank you all of you for watching this webinar. As a special gift for watching this webinar, we want to offer you free instructor access to this new sales management courseware. So if you click on the link that's on your screen, that will give you access. You can review the courseware, the assignments, the quizzes, the lesson plans, the slides, the syllabus, all of it. And you can check it out, see if you think it's a right fit for your classroom. You can also click and we can get you on a walkthrough with one of our course consultants who can answer any specific questions that you might have about this courseware and how it can fit into your course that you're teaching. Thanks so much for joining us today.